How many times do we see in Scripture, and suddenly this happened, and suddenly God did this, and suddenly deliverance came, and suddenly a person received their healing, and suddenly the man's sight was restored, and suddenly faith grew within the disciples. Throughout the Bible, we find the phrase, suddenly. Why? Because we serve the God of suddenly. Suddenly, God will move. Suddenly, God will have His way. And you know what? You don't need to fear. I don't need to fear. We don't need to have fear in our life. Why? Because we know we serve the God of suddenly. Suddenly, God is going to do something. Okay? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I decided this morning to give you a little bit of a visual aid in the fact that I wore all black. Because there are so many of us that feel like we're mourning, that feel like we're going to a funeral, that feel like there is no hope, that God didn't come through, that the nation has come to the end, that healing doesn't take place. Maybe one day, but just not today. And I admit that within my own life, I've been feeling just a little bit like going through a funeral, through a time of drought, through a time of just not quite there. And then you know what? The Lord was really rebuking me. The Lord was really speaking to me and saying, I am the God of suddenly. Suddenly, this situation can turn instantly and miraculously. And you know what's interesting about God? Is that He doesn't like sharing the credit. Just saying it. That's where God is. He's God, so He can do what He wants, right? God doesn't necessarily like sharing the credit. He's a good God. He's a loving God. He's a gracious God. He's an amazing God. But you know what? He's God. And we need to recognize that, and we need to realize that. Because far too often there have been a lot of churches, there have been a lot of pastors, there have been a lot of individuals who are with good intentions working for God, spreading the gospel, doing God's work, and at the same time taking a little bit of the credit and the glory for themselves. Acknowledging the praises of man and looking at the massive empire that's been built. And I'm just saying that's a scary place that we don't want to get to. He is God. We recognize that, we realize that, and we acknowledge here at Lighthouse Church, God is everything. Lord, you are God, and we worship you. We glorify you with everything within us. And it's not about us, it's all about you. Don't fear. We serve the God of suddenly. And the God of suddenly says that He will do something. And the God of suddenly says that He will do something when He is ready to do something.